Hi everyone, I am Arletha Greer and I have been working with polymer clay for about 6 months now. I started off in May of 2018 and have been going back and forth, learning new things and trying new things with polymer clay. And the latest thing that I have created and really love is creating clay figures onto my mug. This is my first mug and my prototype, and I'm already drinking out of it to make sure that with hot coffee, it won't lift up, it won't shift, it won't move. Though I didn't cure this for 24 hours, it still is fine. This mug is polyurethane sealed here. I'm sorry, polymer clay is what I made it with here. This is actual acrylic paint, multi-surface paint that you can get from the craft store. And this is a mug that you can get from anywhere. I got this mug from Big Lots, but the mug that I'm going to show you in this video actually came from the dollar store. So put this out of the way. So the things that I've actually learned in the last couple months working with polymer clay, and that I'm going to talk about in this video and just give you a couple tips, is everything that you actually see right here in this video. So the first thing that I always want to stress is the fact that you need gloves. You can go buy gloves at Home Depot. I got these from Walmart. They work. You're probably going to use them once or twice, or if they get really messy, you're going to throw them away immediately. About $4 or $5 for 50. The other thing you really need to get is an Exacto knife. This is going to save your life when you're cutting clay, cutting things, cutting shapes, cutting lines in the figures to start things. I definitely think as far as tools go, this is the first tool you should buy. I recently purchased a set of dental tools for about $10 on Amazon. Well worth it. Still learning how to use all the tools, and I think I'm still going to make my own silicone tools that are like these dental tools, but basically this works. I like the wooden feel of the tools. This is actually very sharp. I actually haven't taken this off yet. I'm not going to return it. I just didn't take it off yet. I bought this. This is $3.50. Wooden tools can be a bit expensive, but it's worth it when you want to smooth something and you want a different, rougher looking texture, but smooth. These are very sharp, and metal tools will help you cut and slice and also to shape your clay, but just be careful because one little move and it'll scrape off all of your clay. The other thing I strongly suggest, when I first bought this tool, I was in Blick, and the store associate told me I needed a tool like this, and it was so expensive. I won't do that again. That's why I said I think these are silicone tipped. I probably will make my own, or you can order them online at Amazon or go into Micheal's. They're much cheaper than these. Now, I'm not going to say that the quality is better because this is very thick compared to this one that I got from Micheal's. You can honestly see the difference. This is a lot more flexible, where this is stiffer, harder, probably because of the silicone that it's made out of. The other thing, this is a smaller tool. I actually created this wooden tool myself using my dremel. And that's another video that I'll discuss, the dremel. You also need a good brush that is just for polymer clay and working with your varnish, because it's very important. You don't want to, I paint, and you don't want to mix your tools up. So keep, and you'll know after a while, but keep just a brush that is just for your varnish, and a pencil. This is because you should always sketch out what you want to do, not just have it in your mind, because I find that when you sketch out your creation first, you also learn about your proportions. I was going to have a ruler out here that I got. Oh, there it is. And a ruler too. It's not really necessary, but I measure stuff now more than I used to. I still freehand a lot of stuff like most artists, because I feel like artists really didn't have all these tools when they first started creating things, 100 years ago. But they definitely had some tools. So if you can get a ruler, get a ruler. I have this little one, and I have a larger mat too, but that's not necessary. That is what I want to talk about as far as tools. Also, I got this plate. I had this I went searching high and low for a large for a piece of glass cutting board, because it's good to work on it. Oh, sorry, good to work on the cutting board. But the issue with that is that they're so big and bulky and they take up a lot of space, and what I'm creating is very small, so I don't need a lot of space. So I came across this circular one in Dollar Tree, and there's another square one that you can get at Dollar Tree too. I like this because I not only can fit all of my stuff on there, but when I have my supplies and my colors, it all fits nicely on my tray, and I can move this around. Okay, so that is what supplies that you will probably need as you start crafting. So in order for me to make, the other thing I was going to talk about is my clay, and how I actually store my clay. So I do leave my clay out overnight sometimes, but in the end, because I'm realized how I messed up some clay, and I still haven't gone back to this, but I think it's usable now based on what I did, which is online. I used some softener. I chopped the clay up, used some softener, and it seems okay now. I put it in this bag to sort of seal it up, but you should see your clay. Check your clay before you buy it to see how hard it is. If it's really, really hard, don't buy it, because it's probably been on the shelf for a long time. And so because the clay doesn't technically go bad, it's still usable, but it takes a long time to make it workable again. So I have a lot of colors. I started off with just white, and then I bought little small packs of color, which is what you see these. I barely have used this clay. It just depends on what you want to use clay for. But here, so these are the individual packs. These are about $2 and $2.25 wherever you go. This is premo. Premo probably is like $2.75. And then I also have these little small ones that I got in a multi-pack, which I strongly suggest people get a multi-pack to start, because all the colors are pretty much there. And then I just have a Tupperware container that you can get, that I push and I make sure it's sealed all up. Okay, so then the other thing I would strongly suggest is, if I use this technique because I thought it would be cool. I saw this girl doing it online, where you actually, instead of on the glass, because it can be a little hard to pick up on the glass sometimes, your clay, if you pressed it and pressed it, it is actually easier to pick it up off of the wood. But the issue is that if you make your clay too thin or roll it out too thin, then you will leave a stain. And do not bake on wood, because if you bake on wood, your clay will adhere to your wood, which is why you see this curve here from an umbrella I made, and it will always be there. And the yellow is when I was rolling something out and I rolled it too thin, and then it started to stick here, and so I pulled that up and it made a mess. So this works. I'll go into another tutorial later about how this works, but this can work if you do want to sculpt on wood. Okay. What the other things that I wanted to show are you can sculpt on glass. If you sculpt on glass, it will like adhere to the glass. It'll be a little, make these bubbles though and be a bit suctiony. So just be careful with that. When you put clay onto glass, it will work. But you're going to also, it will like make this like almost like a suction cup. So I haven't actually finalized anything on glass, so I'm actually going to work on that today. Yay. When I have a break because it's a snow day and work is closed. I want to create another figure and I want to put her on glass. And let's see how that actually works, if it stays. And I don't know. So I will, in another video, explain glass itself directly the same way I want to do porcelain directly, but just to know, you can put clay on glass and it will stick. The other things I was going to say is what I work with as far as clay. I bought this sculpey clay softener. It's like $3 or $4. This is really good. I have barely used any of it. It just takes a couple drops, but it has honestly saved my life when I am using pigment powders. And you can buy pigment powders, which is a whole different thing, but I didn't want to go into that. I'll go into that in another session. But this is really good for using with anything that is not clay and that you want to add it to clay. Translucent liquid is bakeable clay, and you can also get this stuff called Bake Bond, which is just clay as well as liquid, but this is very thick, or it's not very thick, but it's thicker than this. So I often will put this down a little bit, add chalk or pigment to it, and then use just barely a drop of this to thin it out, so that it will stretch and I can use it as like a painting agent. This is also good when you want to stick pieces of clay together, or you, like I said, you want to create something that's like a paint or that's its own clay. You can use this. I got this because it dries clear, so it's really, really good. The other thing I was going to say is that this is actually a freehand that I did, and I actually think she's really cute. But when I made the second one, when I was done, I really rushed through this because I just wanted to see if I could do it. Because again, I was working on a prototype and I didn't want to spend a lot of time because there's so much detail and I had so much in my mind that I wanted to do. So I actually really like her. She turned out okay, but I burned her, and so then I couldn't use her. Here, my initial ARG. So, but what I was able to do from her, because she's not a waste, she still works, I put a lot of time in her, I created a mold of her face. So I strongly advise people to get molds, and once you have something that you like and you spend a lot of time on it, especially I spent a lot of time on this face trying to get it with the right features, and things like that so that it would work. I had a 40% off coupon at Michael's. I'm gonna bring this into the shot really quickly. There are different types of molds, but this is the easy mold. You can get a liquid mold too, but I just use this because you can take a little bit of it, and I used way too much the first time, so I actually made something else out of the rest of it, just playing around with it to see if it would work. But this is the mold that I use. It's like $25, but I had a 40% off coupon, so I ended up spending like $13 or $14 after tax. Well worth it. I have so much left in here. You don't need a lot, and this is actually what I'm probably going to use to make my own sculpting tools with that are silicone. So I made a mold of her face, which I actually can just put it back on. So I cheated to make my other girl in that way. That if you look in here, oh, this light is terrible. You can actually see her hair, her face. This is her neck. So what I use is just the face to put the clay in. And that is saving me so much time as I move forward, because I actually now have the exact shape of the face as it should appear proportionally on the mug when I do the bodies. So I did not mold the body, but I at least did the face. And then after you do the face, then you can manipulate the face into different facial expressions, and it saves you a lot of time. When I initially created the face, this is not what I used. This is too big. This is for something else. But what this actually is aluminum foil balled up into a ball. And then I wrapped that aluminum foil in masking tape so that when I put clay on it, it wouldn't adhere, because this is very, very smooth and well varnished or whatever. So it's very slick surface. So I can pull the clay directly off of it. I'd strongly suggest that you do make shapes for your items. I see people use marbles for a head and things like that, and I just didn't go out and buy marbles. That's not something I have in my house, but I'm sure you can find marbles at the dollar store that are in various sizes, and you can use that to sculpt your heads first and get your proportions together. Just make sure you sculpt correctly. Also, the other thing I was going to discuss was painting on your polymer clay. I see things that say you can paint before, paint after. I started a lot of my clay in just regular white, and then I was painting because I'm a painter. I paint in acrylic paint a lot, so I know how to make colors from paint, but I didn't necessarily know how to make the right colors with clay. And not all the time does clay have the same colors that acrylic paint have, and so on and so forth. So I know now how to use clay a little better. But this is Winsor Newton. I think this is this is a level 1 paint. I'm almost series 1 paint. It's a great paint. People say it's for beginning painters, but I know a lot of painters who use this. The thicker you get in the paint, is just different colors and different thickness and how you lay it on anything. So just be conscious of that when you're buying paint. I also think you can use the regular craft paint or multi-surface paint, which is good. I just have a lot of good paint, so I use this paint, and I find that when I use this paint, I don't have to put as many layers onto my clay. So that I actually use, the hair is on this doll is actually clay mixed. The face, this hand is actually just raw sienna clay, but this face I actually use various colors of paint to paint this, which is why it looks a bit more authentic. The dress that I use is pigment, and that liquid sculpey and clay softener, and I mix those together to make my own paint, so that this is actually like 3 different colors. Those lines you see underneath is actually black that I use to make a little pattern, and then this is where I burnt it, as you can see, and on the back you can see how I burnt it really badly, so I couldn't use it. Anyway, I hope that this video was the last thing, I'm sorry. The last thing I want to say is, some people like the dull look, some people don't like the dull look. I actually like the really shiny look. Sorry. So because I like the really shiny look, I found this tutorial somewhere on YouTube that says, what is the best thing to do to finish your clay? And I searched high and low, found this in Walmart. I think I spent like 13 bucks on this can. I have barely used this because you don't need a lot of sealant, but it is the best sealant ever. You can also use resin, but I haven't played with resin because resin is so expensive. But this is a great finish, and is actually what you see on my girl. So see how she's so shiny and beautiful. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. Peace.